Lloyd and Nathan wandered between the rows of supermarkets like they were in a museum, admiring the contents of the shelves with fragrant pastries and sweets, scrutinizing the price tags to find something tasty that they could afford. They didn't have much money, all they could get from the plastic bottles they recycled. Lloyd and Nathan were residents of the orphanage. When they had no lessons, they would sneak into town through a hole in the fence. Outside the orphanage, the boys would play soccer with the city kids and collect recyclable materials, using the proceeds to buy themselves and the other kids some candy or pastry. No, they were well fed at the orphanage, but children of that age always want something special. Finally, the boys chose the sweets they wanted and made their way resolutely to the cash register, passing on the way a poorly dressed elderly man who had been choosing something on the shelf with cut-price items for a long time. Lloyd walked over to the cash register and placed his purchase on the table. The cashier told him the price, and the boy nonchalantly took a handful of coins from his pocket and carefully counted it. He knew for sure he had enough, but unexpectedly he was a dime short, and Lloyd frantically went through the coins again and again, not understanding how this could have happened. "Hurry, please. If there is no money, then put the goods back and go home. Look what a line has already gathered behind you," said the saleswoman impatiently. "Sorry, just a minute, please," said Lloyd as he reached into his pocket again and was horrified to find a hole in it. Tears came to the boy's eyes, and he looked at the woman with a pleading look. He tried to explain to her what had happened and why he could not pay more, but she just burst into vicious curses, called Lloyd a beggar, and offered him either to pay or get out of the store. The cashier was about to call security, but the very same old man came up and, with shaking hands, put the missing coins in front of the woman. "Here, is this enough?" he asked quietly. "You should think better of yourself than doing charity," dropped the cashier in response, but the elderly man looked reproachfully at the woman, sighed heavily, and slowly, shuffling gait, headed for the exit. Stunned, Lloyd and Nathan grabbed sweets and ran out into the street. They were ashamed that they had not thanked the man for his help, especially their tutor, Mrs. Morris, had always taught them to be polite and courteous in any situation. The elderly man had already gone a few meters away from the store when suddenly something fell out of his pocket. He did not notice and walked on, not even feeling that he had lost his wallet. But the boys had noticed it, and they rushed to the find excitedly. The elderly man was already out of sight, and Lloyd, hiding the wallet in his pocket and looking around, commanded, "Let's go quickly!" The boys ran around the corner of the supermarket, and after running a few more meters, stopped to catch their breath. Unable to stand it any longer, they looked into the wallet and saw in it a thick stack of large bills. They had never seen so much money before, and their minds were already running up actions on how to spend such a huge sum. They were so excited by the sudden wealth that had fallen upon them that they had completely forgotten about the real owner of the money. Only when they found a utility receipt with the name and surname in one of the pockets of the wallet, they remembered him. Lloyd, barely moving his lips, read the elderly man's name and looked at his buddy. "Is the address there too?" asked Nathan hesitantly. Lloyd nodded and looked at his friend carefully. They felt that they were doing wrong, but life in the orphanage made them look at many things differently, and after conferring, they decided to keep the money for themselves. While they were returning to the orphanage, Nathan was thinking of the man who had helped them in the supermarket. He was ready to give him back his wallet, but he was afraid Lloyd wouldn't understand him. But he had no idea that at that moment his friend was thinking the same thing. So they walked in contemplation all the way to the orphanage, hesitating to make the right choice. But apparently the efforts of their tutor, Mrs. Morris, who had been inculcating in them good human qualities since childhood, were not in vain. Once inside the walls of the orphanage, the boys felt even more remorse and decided to ask the teacher how they should act. "Mrs. Morris, what if we, for example, found someone's thing on the street? Do we have to return it?" Carefully choosing his words, asked Nathan. "I think, guys, that it doesn't matter where you found not your thing. It will still be someone else's, and you have to return it to the owner," advised the teacher wisely. After speaking with the teacher, the boys firmly decided that they would return the wallet. Barely waiting for the next morning, they rushed to the needed address listed on the receipt. Having found the right house, Nathan and Lloyd hesitantly stopped in front of the shabby old door and with a loud sigh pressed the doorbell. The familiar shuffling footsteps sounded behind the door, and an elderly man from the supermarket appeared on the threshold. "Hello, boys. What are you doing here?" asked the elderly man, who didn't seem to recognize the kids he had helped yesterday. "Oh, here, take your wallet. You lost it yesterday," said Nathan, blushing, and handed the wallet to the man. Mr. Bennet looked at the boys confused, and his eyes became wet with tears. With difficulty, he pulled himself together and with trembling hands took the wallet, heartily thanking the boys for their honesty. Then he invited them into the house for tea. Lloyd and Nathan went inside the spacious apartment, furnished with antique furniture, and Mr. Bennet, having put the kettle on, looked at them fatherly. "Thank you, boys. It's all my savings. I was saving up for a present for my wife, Mary, for her anniversary. She's been dreaming about it," said the man with excitement in his voice, and he wept again. "And where is she?" asked Nathan. The old man looked sadly at the boy and pointed to the portrait hanging on the wall, tied with a black ribbon. "Oh, there she is, my Mary. She's been dead for a year. She was very ill." The children looked at the picture of the elderly woman with a smart and kind face and understood everything. Meanwhile, Mr. Bennet continued to tell about his life. He and Mary lived together for almost 40 years and never quarrelled. Mary was very fond of children, but they did not manage to have a child. At first they worked a lot, and then their health was not good enough. But Mary always willingly took care of other people's children, especially when she retired. In this apartment building, where they lived most of their lives, she was always ready to help young mothers to babysit, and they willingly left their babies with her. And what Mary wanted most of all was a nice playground in the yard of their house, with a sandpit, all sorts of carousels and slides, with benches and beautiful flower beds around. She turned to the city administration and the management company several times, but all they could get were vain excuses. So Mr. Bennet decided to save some of his own money from his pension and fulfill his wife's dream on her birthday, but he didn't make it in time. Mr. Bennet sobbed and fell silent again, and Lloyd and Nathan felt very unhappy at the thought that just yesterday they were going to keep his money for themselves. "I didn't expect the money to come back to me. You are so good kids. You could have spent it on yourselves, but you didn't. I remember how you were looking at expensive candy in the store. It must be difficult with money in the family, right?" asked the elderly man. "We're from an orphanage, mister. We don't have a family," whispered Nathan, lowering his eyes. Hearing this, Mr. Bennet turned pale and, apparently having decided something for himself, took a purse from the nightstand and, pulling out the contents, handed the money to the boys. "You guys did a noble thing, and I want to do the same. Take this money and buy yourself and the other kids at the orphanage some sweets and toys and whatever else is missing. I won't have time to put up a playground anyway, and it will bring you a lot of use." Nathan and Lloyd shook their heads together, but Mr. Bennet insisted. He assured them that he had already made up his mind, and no one would be able to dissuade him. And he also believed that his beloved Mary, looking down from heaven, would also be happy about this decision. The boys parted with Mr. Bennet as true friends. Back at the orphanage, they immediately ran to the teacher, handed her the money, and told her about this fantastic event. Mrs. Morris was so touched by this incredible and kind story that she gathered all the kids together and told the story of Mr. Bennet and his wife, and what a noble gesture the lonely elderly man had made. After consulting the administration of the orphanage, Mrs. Morris organised a volunteer group of older children to help fulfil the cherished dream of Mr. Bennet's late wife. The children cleaned the area in front of the man's apartment building from trash and old grass, planted Mary's favourite flowers just as she had dreamed. They tidied up old outdoor equipment and horizontal bars, repaired and painted old benches, and set up a nice big sandbox with swings and a slide in the middle of the yard. The little kids from the neighbouring buildings immediately became fond of this playground, and Mr. Bennet, watching them through the window, was also happy. Since that memorable day, Lloyd and Nathan came to visit Mr. Bennet every weekend, and they literally became like grandchildren to him. He felt that now he had a real friendly family again, where he was deeply loved and cared for. 2 years before Lloyd and Nathan graduated from the orphanage, Mr. Bennet passed away. Shortly before his death, having a presentiment of his imminent end, the elderly man made a will which gave the boys his apartment when they entered adulthood. This became a great anchor point in their future fate, and they never forgot to whom they owed it. From frightened boys, they grew up into successful men who always had their faith in people. Honouring their named grandfather, they placed a beautiful granite gravestone, which they never left without fresh flowers.